I've touched on aspects of my smart home setup during my reviews of the products like Sonos One, Logitech Harmony Elite, and the Ring Video Doorbell. But I thought it was time to take you through my full smart home setup. See what systems I'm using, how I have them integrated, and what I find useful, as well as what I'm considering doing next. Let's get started. This isn't meant to be a "this is exactly how you should do it" type of video, and it's absolutely not an episode of Extreme Homes. If you're someone just getting started out building your smart home, this will hopefully give you some ideas. And if you're someone who already has an extensive setup, this should be an interesting comparison. There's no one right way to set this stuff up, and this will be the beginning of a series of videos where I'll be doing deeper dives into how some of this is set up. No matter what gear you buy, you have to have a centralized backbone to your smart home. I try to be as agnostic as I can be with my smart home tech to give me options to move between platforms as things change. So at the heart of it, I'm able to jump between Amazon, Google, and Apple to control everything in my home and my setup routines. The platform agnostic gear is also important since the technology is changing so quickly, it will give you more years of service out of the gear that you buy. If a company shuts down, it won't matter because their light bulb could still work with another service. Or if you don't like how a company is handling your private data, you can switch to a self-hosted option to maintain better control, all without having to buy any new smart home tech. The backbone and brain of my system is Smartthings, which I've been using for years. Buying a Smartthings up to date will cost you about $70 in the US. It's been a fairly reliable system and offers a lot of integrations. Samsung bought Smartthings in 2014, and ever since they've been slowly migrating their technologies into a centralized Samsung backend. Now personally, I'm not thrilled with that, but their service has been fairly stable, and I haven't run into many problems. But in the future, I'm looking at transitioning to a self-hosted option like Home Assistant, which is a free open source project, or Habitat, which costs about $100 in the US for better control over my data and my privacy. And whether it's Smartthings, Home Assistant, or Habitat, the same functionality is basically there across all of these systems. Within Smartthings, I have what they call modes for away, home, night, vacation, and work. The modes themselves don't have a lot of meaning. They're kind of like tags that you can hang different settings, features, and routines off of. If you're setting up routines around something like a light turning itself on and off to make it look like someone's home when they're actually not, you can tell the light to turn itself on at sunset, but only when your home is either in away or vacation mode. And this isn't unique to Smartthings, but most of these services can use either your smartphone or a little tracker device that you can carry with you to use geofencing on your home. When your phone gets beyond a certain distance from your home or any location that you set, a series of routines can automatically be triggered. For me, when both my phone and my wife's phone are detected leaving the house, the home switches to away mode, which then triggers routines to make sure all of our lights are turned off, the door is locked, the garage door is down, our security cameras are turned on, and our HVAC system changes its temperature and fan settings. It's like having a virtual butler check to make sure that you didn't forget to turn off a light or lock a door. If either one of us is detected returning back home to the geofence zone, the house runs the "I'm back" routine, flips back to the home mode, and the temperature gets set back to our normal settings, and our cameras get turned off. And if it's after sunset, we have several lights that automatically turn on to make sure we can see walking up to the front door and into the house. You can trigger events around motion detection to something opening and closing to people arriving or departing. There's a lot of customization available. Lights is the area that I think most people will focus on because it's the easiest place to start. It's how I ended up going down the slippery slope into home automation town myself. I started with a Philips Hue set for a few lights in my living room, which started multiplying like rabbits around my house. There are now a couple of dozen lights, spotlights, light strips, and switches all over the place. From my experience, Hue is truly a set it and forget it type of system. It really just works. It does require its own hub to get all of the perks of the system, but you can stash that away pretty much anywhere. I've got my hub stuck to the wall behind a set of books on the shelf right behind me. By itself, the hub will usually cost you about $60 in the US, but you can get a better deal by buying one of their starter kits that range between $70 and $120 depending on the kit. It varies with the types of included lights and switches. And the lights integrate with just about everything. If you don't want to use the Philips Hue hub, the lights and switches are using the Zigbee wireless standard, so you can link them directly to another hub like the Amazon Echo Plus. A great use case for this type of system, not just the Hue, is adding bulbs into an area that doesn't have any kind of light control switch available. I have a small closet located under some stairs which I affectionately refer to as the Harry Potter room. It doesn't have any kind of easy way to get a wired light switch in there. I dropped a couple of the cheaper white Philips Hue bulbs in there and attached a Hue switch just outside the closet door. And now we have what feels like a typical wired switch. But you can take this kind of setup one step further, which of course I did because I have a home automation problem. I added a motion sensor above the closet door so the closet lights will turn themselves off after a few minutes with no motion. For my wired light switches, I landed on using Lutron Caseta switches for most of them. And just like Philips Hue, it does require the use of another tiny little hub that you can tuck away pretty much anywhere. You can usually find the Lutron Caseta starter kit for between $80 and $90, and it includes a hub, an in-wall switch, and a remote. And just like Philips Hue, it integrates into just about every other major service from Google, Amazon, Apple, and Smartthings. The downside is that it's a proprietary wireless technology, so you have to use their hub. You get the benefit of a traditional wall switch, but with the added smart controls. That means with the exception of about 3 standard lights in my home, every other light in my house can now be tied into smart home routines. Like I said, I've got a home automation problem. I put out a review on the Logitech Harmony Elite a little while ago, so I won't rehash what I spoke about there. But I have hub-based Logitech Harmony remotes set up on each of our televisions in the house. These all tie into Smartthings, Lutron, Philips Hue, Amazon, and Google as well, so it makes it very easy to tie home theater activities to other smart home routines. Switch to watch a movie and have the lights automatically dim or turn them on if it's after sunset. We also use Amazon and Google voice assistants to turn on our television, control the volume, change the channel, and much more. I've touched on this in other episodes like my Sonos Beam review, Google Home Hub review, and the Logitech Harmony Elite review, which I'll include links in the description. I also have Arlo Pro security cameras, which integrate with a lot of different services, including Smartthings. The systems cost between $200 and $800 depending on how many cameras you want with it. They're great cameras with good image quality and have been rock solid for me. The rechargeable batteries last for months at a time, which makes them easy to place almost anywhere without needing to worry about wires. But having cameras in and around your home can feel a little bit creepy. I only have my cameras focused on doors and entrances into my house to make sure people in my home feel comfortable, but also have these tied into Smartthings routines. As I mentioned earlier with the home and away modes, the cameras are turned off in home mode and only turn on in away or vacation mode. They can also be used as part of Smartthings' smart home monitor system, which acts like a home security system. If the cameras detect motion while we're away, Smartthings can trigger a warning notification on your phone to let you know, and activate things like sirens, locking doors, and also having the cameras start recording for a specific amount of time. If you have something like a Google Home Hub, you can actually watch live feeds from your Arlo cameras. It's not a feature I've used too often, just a couple of times, but I can see how it might be useful in some situations. On the outside of the house, I have a Ring Video Doorbell, which is usually around $100, and a Ring Spotlight camera, which is usually around $250. These are also tied into the Smartthings system. If motion is detected after sunset, outside lights will come on. You can do the same thing for a doorbell ring. At the end of last year, I had my water heater die and leak a lot of water. After that, I purchased a couple of Smartthings water leak sensors that can send alerts when water is detected. They usually run for about $20 each, and I actually got to see these work in action after they detected a leak from the brand new replacement water heater. It was good times, but it worked, and the notification allowed me to shut off the water and get ahead of things so that the leak could be contained. I've been looking at some motorized water valves that I could tie into this to automatically shut off certain water lines if one of the leak sensors gets triggered. I also have some multi-purpose sensors that you can add to doors, which I've tied into the Smartthings Security Center. They're only about $20 each, and if a door opens or closes when the system is on, it sends me a notification and triggers the cameras around the house. And I also have the Nest Protect smoke alarms throughout my house and tied into Smartthings as well. They're more expensive than a typical smoke and carbon dioxide alarm at about $100, but they have a great battery life, and the integrations are worth it in my book. I have a routine set up to turn off the HVAC system if a fire is detected, which can help to slow down the spread of a fire. It will also turn on all the lights to help wake people up and get them out of the house. We have an Ecobee smart thermostat controlling our HVAC system, which is a fantastic device. Depending on which model you're looking at, you can typically pick one up for between $150 and $300. Nest thermostats are another good option, but when I was shopping for thermostats, Nest didn't have the option for additional temperature sensors. The Ecobee came with additional little temperature and motion sensors that you can drop into key rooms around your home. It uses those separate temperature sensors and knowledge if someone's in a room or not to adjust the home's heating and cooling to make sure it's comfortable where the people actually are in the home. It really works. And again, I have this tied into Smartthings, which allows me to flip the Ecobee between different modes depending on what mode the house is in. I work from home, so if I'm home alone and it's during the work week, the house flips into work mode. This gives priority to the upstairs and more specifically to my home office where I am right now, where I spend most of my time for temperature settings. Our finished basement can get very cold in the winter, so we have a space heater down there that is plugged into a smart outlet that's rated for high energy use. Smartthings turns that heater on and off automatically depending on the room temperature and based on what mode the home is in. If it's night mode or work mode, the heater is basically off. If it's home mode, it's set to a more comfortable temperature. We have something very similar for humidity control in our garage, which can get very damp. So we have a humidifier on a similar smart outlet that automatically turns a dehumidifier on and off depending on the garage humidity level. And the one that I get asked about a lot is flashing lights in the house when the washer or dryer finishes a load. I've attached a couple of Smartthings multipurpose sensors to the sides of the washer and dryer. Smartthings has a little smart app that detects the vibrations from the sensor, which has controls for minimum cycle time and tub fill time. When the motion is stopped for that allotted time, the routine gets triggered and it looks like a dance party in our living room, kitchen, and bedroom. And as ridiculous as it sounds, it's kind of awesome. The notification, not the dance party. And another fun, crazy little routine is with our Roomba vacuum cleaner. I'm using services like If This Then That and Stringify to make this one work. If nobody's home and Smartthings is in away mode and the Roomba hasn't run in 2 days, then it gets triggered to do a cleaning cycle. Necessary? No. Fun and convenient? Yes. I really just did that one because I could. This isn't every little thing I have set up because the video could easily be an hour long, but I wanted to share some of the more useful setups that I have and get the most use out of. Hopefully these help to spur some ideas of what's possible, and keep in mind, this is only scratching the surface. Everything I walk through is pretty simple to set up in a service like Smartthings, but you can achieve most or all of it on all the major platforms too. As I mentioned earlier, I'm planning on shifting things to a self-hosted service for better data and privacy protection, but I'll still be able to take advantage of all the same gear and services that I use today. I'll most likely be putting together a video on that later, as well as additional videos on specific setups. And there's a very interesting aspect to smart homes that I haven't seen talked about much at all. And that's smart home tech used as assistive devices for people with disabilities. I'm working on a video for that one too. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and share what your favorite gear, setups, and routines are that you're using. And let me know which aspects of my system you'd like me to do a deeper dive into. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are some ways you can do so. Want some fun geeky t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right now? Check out my SFSF shop for some cool Tesla, SpaceX, Science, and Undecided t-shirts. Every purchase helps to support the channel. Get some great Tesla accessories like console wraps, LED lights, and more from Abstract Ocean, and save 15% off your first order with my referral code. You can become an Undecided supporter on Patreon to help grow and shape the channel. If you're interested, please check out my Patreon page for additional details, and I hope to see some of you over there. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell to get alerts when I post new videos. And as always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.